everybody. Fox News Alert now on the art of the deal from Argentina. G20 nearly underway. We expect headlines for the next 3 hours, for the next 3 days, really. And we got one earlier today. I'm Bill Hemmer. It's Friday. Welcome here to America's Newsroom.
We will see where the next few hours takes us. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith. The official welcome ceremony set to start 1 hour from now, and trade talks already front and center. The president participating in a signing ceremony for his highly touted NAFTA replacement, saying the new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement will lead to more growth and opportunity across North America.
We've worked hard on this agreement. It's been long and hard. We've taken a lot of barbs and a little abuse, and we got there. It's great for all of our countries. Thank you for your close partnership.
The tariff-free access that NAFTA guaranteed for more than 70% of Canada's total exports is secure, and that's essential for businesses, families, jobs, entrepreneurs, and hardworking people in every corner of our country.
So that was just about an hour ago, and already we have major scheduling changes for this. President Trump canceled that meeting with Vladimir Putin. The escalating tensions between Russia and Ukraine, they're still alive and kicking. Kevin Cork's down in Argentina. Doug McElway picks up our coverage live in Washington. Doug, good to see you. Good morning.
Morning, Bill. You know, our younger viewers may not remember the name Ross Perot, the billionaire businessman who ran for president in 1992, criticizing NAFTA. His famous quote, "That giant sucking sound you hear is jobs leaving the United States." Well, he proved absolutely correct about NAFTA, and President Trump tapped into that thinking when he said NAFTA needed to be renegotiated. Well, this morning came the payoff when Trump, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Mexican President Nieto stood at the G20 summit to sign this new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement.
The USMCA is the largest, most significant, modern, and balanced trade agreement in history. All of our countries will benefit greatly. As part of our agreement, the United States will be able to lock in our market access to Canada and Mexico and greatly expand our agricultural exports, something we've been wanting to do for many years.
As I discussed with President Trump a few days ago, the recent plant closures by General Motors, which affects thousands of Canadian and American workers and their families, are a heavy blow. Make no mistake, we will stand up for our workers and fight for their families and their communities. And Donald, it's all the more reason why we need to keep working to remove the tariffs on steel and aluminum between our countries.
That little jab at the president from Mr. Trudeau about tariffs. In fact, tariffs are high on the agenda for Saturday night's dinner meeting between President Trump and President Xi of China. But many analysts are downplaying the prospects of any kind of a trade deal between those two countries. One sign of the pessimism is the recent inclusion of U.S. Trade Advisor Peter Navarro to the U.S. delegation at Saturday night's dinner. Navarro is a hardliner against Chinese steel dumping. He's a firm advocate for China containment. The Chinese are aware of that and don't take kindly to his invitation. In addition, the hoped-for meeting with President Putin is now off, as you said, Bill. The president tweeting while on board the flight to Argentina yesterday, quote, "Based on the fact that the ships and the sailors have not been returned to Ukraine from Russia, I have decided it would be best for all parties concerned to cancel my previously scheduled meeting in Argentina with President Vladimir Putin." The president did add, however, that he has not ruled out a future meeting when that Ukrainian-Russia situation is resolved.
Off we go. Thank you, Doug. Good stuff there. Setting the table from Washington. Doug McElway there. More news now with Sandra.
Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort, we are learning, will not be in the courtroom today as a sentencing date is set for charges stemming from the Mueller investigation. It comes just one day after a guilty plea from the president's former attorney, Michael Cohen, who admitted he lied to Congress about a real estate deal in Moscow. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge joins us now live from Washington with the latest there. Catherine, good morning.
Well, thank you, Sandra. This morning, the lawyers for the president's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, and the special counsel square off in court. The hearing is set to begin just a half hour from now. The special counsel alleges that the plea deal fell apart because they say Manafort lied and did not fully cooperate. But Manafort's team says the special counsel wants information that he simply does not have and cannot provide. Fox News understands that special counsel investigators pressed Manafort on the June 2016 Trump Tower meeting with Russians who promised dirt on then candidate Hillary Clinton, and specifically the involvement of the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. According to emails, Kushner abandoned the meeting early and had no interest in the Russians. Here's the president on Manafort yesterday.
It's very sad what's happened to Paul, the way he's being treated. I've never seen anybody treated so poorly. But the question was asked to me by the New York Post, and I said, no, I have not offered any pardons. And I think they asked, or whatever, would you? I said, I'm not taking anything off the table.
Meantime, on Capitol Hill, the reaction divides along political lines.
I think the president is a smart man, and I think he understands that it would distract us, to say the least, from a lot of other very important issues, and I don't think he'll do that, nor do I think he's going to fire Mr. Mueller.
That would be a complete abuse of power. The power of the pardon is not ever been used to protect a president and his family. And again, we've seen from this White House again and again disregard for rule of law.
We do not expect the Manafort hearing to last all that long. What we do expect is that they'll set a sentencing date in the very near future. And as we get more details, of course, we'll bring them to you, Sandra.
And Catherine, how is the president's legal team pushing back against the Cohen plea?
Well, this morning, a source close to the president's legal team told Fox News they are revisiting these letters to special counsel Robert Mueller and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein from 2017, where they asked for an investigation of the conduct and sworn testimony to Congress by former FBI Director James Comey. The letters to Mueller and Rosenstein level multiple accusations against Comey, including his handling of the Clinton email case. As you know, the Inspector General has already found Comey was insubordinate because he went around his established chain of command, as well as the procedures. The letters also call for a review of media leaks authorized by Comey to kickstart the special counsel investigation. And as you know, we've been waiting for the Inspector General, who's doing an independent separate report on that same issue, Sandra.
Catherine Herridge, thank you for your continued reporting on that.
Good stuff from yesterday and again today. Thank you, Catherine. For more on all this now, Charlie Hurt, opinion editor of Washington Times, Fox News contributor. Charlie, how are you on a Friday?
Good morning, Bill.
There are a lot of theories out there, a lot of stuff we do not know. What has changed fundamentally, do you think, in 24 hours, Charlie?
Well, I think that the biggest, probably the biggest change is the fact that if you have Michael Cohen out here changing his story, copying to telling falsehoods to the Mueller investigation, that is significant. That does change certainly some of the stories that the campaign was issuing at the time about Donald Trump's dealings with Russia at the time. But the problem remains. This doesn't have anything to do with the initial purpose, the initial scope of the Mueller investigation. It also, calls it a question if Mueller is aiming to use somebody like Michael Cohen or Paul Manafort as a witness to level charges against the president. You've got truly compromised witnesses here. The other issue, I guess, the other important issue here is the fact that, all of this can still play out in the political realm. You have Democrats now taking control of the House. They've made it very clear that they want to make this an issue for Democrats in the House, in their investigations. And I can guarantee you, Bill, that we will be hearing about all of these details ad nauseum over the next 2 years.
Okay, I want you ad nauseum 2 more years. Maybe more. Here is what we woke up to. I just want you to react to this tweet from the president from Argentina earlier today. He says, I get it. I'm a very good developer, happily living my life when I see our country going in the wrong direction, to put it mildly, he says. Against all odds, I decided to run for president and continue to run my business. Very legal and very cool. Talked about on the campaign trail, lightly looked at doing a building somewhere in Russia, put up zero money, zero guarantees, and did not do the project witch hunt. That tweet from earlier today followed this comment from the South Lawn of the White House from yesterday.
He's a weak person and not a very smart person. He's got himself a big prison sentence, and he's trying to get a much lesser prison sentence by making up a story. Now, here's the thing. Even if he was right, it doesn't matter, because I was allowed to do whatever I wanted during the campaign.
That was his position initially. Again today, Charlie, that's his position.
I think that not only will we be hearing a lot about Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort from Democrats in the House, but we're going to also hear a lot of pushback over the next 2 years directly from the president. I think what's important here is that the president is following this closely. He's watching all of these developments very closely and is developing as he goes along, as he always does, a defense. He's going to defend himself. And the president is correct about this. we knew about these his business dealings during the election, and that's where the political side of this sort of runs into some choppy waters for Democrats, and that is the fact that when Republicans nominated him and Donald Trump, and when voters elected him president, they knew about these deals. They knew he had all of these business deals around the world, and they took that into consideration, and it didn't affect the outcome of the election. So Donald Trump has been able to work that angle.
That's what's moving in Washington and Argentina. Meanwhile, just about 15 seconds. Do you think this meeting with Putin goes back on sometime in the next 24 hours?
I don't know if it does this particular weekend. Well, I don't know about that, but I do suspect that it will go back on at some point.
Thank you, Charlie. Nice to see you. Charlie Hurt there in Washington on a Friday morning. Nice to have you along with us today. And, you know, this meeting was canceled, Sandra, obviously because of the situation with Ukraine that happened last Sunday. You take these ships and these sailors hostage, and they are still being held today. So unless anything gives there, the White House and the president are going to stick to where they are.
We should start to see those images of world leaders arriving at the G20 summit there shortly. The president is expected to arrive at the site of the G20 summit top of the hour. So we'll wait on some of those pictures out of Argentina. Meanwhile, ex-FBI Director James Comey going to court slamming a House Republican-issued subpoena as harassment. One of the committee chairmen who issued that subpoena, Bob Goodlatte, is standing by. We will get his response next.
Also, this truck flipping over, killing 3 people during a high-speed chase by the Border Patrol, only miles from Mexico. New details today on how this happened, Sandra.
And the fight over the border wall entering a new phase. Where does the battle stand now? We are going to be speaking to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton.
The leaders in Mexico care very much about this issue. They want to make sure that Mexico isn't just a thoroughfare for people passing through these northern triangle states, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, trying to get to the United States. They want to solve the problem just as badly as we do.
That's another Fox News alert. Former FBI Director James Comey now challenging a subpoena from Republicans in the House. He accuses them of partisan harassment for demanding a closed-door testimony in the FBI actions leading up to the election in 2016. The House Judiciary Committee Chair is Bob Goodlatte, the Republican from Virginia. Sir, how are you? And welcome back here on America's Newsroom. So you got your work cut out for you. James Comey says he's worried about leaks. Should he be worried?
Well, first of all, we don't condone leaks. Trey Gowdy and I concerned about that. And since Jim Comey claims he wants transparency, we've already indicated that we will release the transcript of this under oath private interview the next day after it takes place. We're almost done with this investigation. He's one of the last witnesses. 16 other people have testified under oath in the same setting that we're asking him to do it. And his claim that he needs to do it in public is, in my opinion, a farce. Quite frankly, 5 minutes is not enough time for an experienced former prosecutor like Trey Gowdy or John Ratcliffe to follow all of the threads that need to be followed, the hundreds of questions that need to be asked, and that needs to be done in a private setting.
Okay,
but we're happy for the transparency.
If there are hundreds of questions, give me one that's on your mind. What do you need to know, sir?
Well, we need to know, just as one example, what Jim Comey was doing during the time between when he wrote a statement that exonerated Hillary Clinton and when he actually issued it in revised form a number of weeks later. We need to know what Jim Comey was doing with regard to the initiation of the so-called Trump-Russia collusion investigation, and we need to know why he persisted in pursuing surveillance of Carter Page, United States citizen, for a full year when there's no evidence that Carter Page did anything that would suggest that
you don't
he
think
was colluding with the Russians.
You don't think you can get those answers in an open hearing?
No, because you get an answer and then you have 3 or 4 follow-up questions. The interviews generally have ranged 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. We rotate 1 hour for Republican counsel and then 1 hour for the Democrats to ask their questions. And when we're done with this investigation, which is obviously going to be soon, we'll release all of these transcripts so the American people can see what was going on in 2016 and leading into 2017.
Trey Gowdy suggested you could videotape it. Is that some sort of compromise that could be?
we're open to the idea of videotaping it. The fact of the matter is, though, he is trying to run the clock on us, and that's why we think he's filed this motion to quash. Fusion GPS also tried that. They were knocked down, and instead Glenn Simpson came in and took the fifth. What Jim Comey's intentions are, I don't know, other than that it's pretty clear he doesn't want to come in and answer the detailed questions that we have.
I'm looking at the calendar. I know you are as well. You're almost out of time, right? I mean, first week of January, the gavel switches.
We have another month. Now, of course, when that happens, we already have indications from Lindsey Graham, who's expected to be the new chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and Ron Johnson, who is the chairman of the Senate Oversight Committee, that they intend to pursue this. And we also know that the Inspector General, who's already filed a 400-page report, so if you're looking for questions for Mr. Comey, you need to look no further than a 400-page report from the Inspector General regarding matters. And that, coupled with the documents we've examined and the witnesses we've talked to, have given us a plethora of questions that he needs to come in and answer so we can complete this investigation.
Let me slide in a few more things here in the minute I have left. Comey's statement from his attorneys reads like this: Mr. Comey should not be coerced into participating in an improper and partisan effort to undermine the legitimacy of an institution that he served for the better part of 4 years. There is no legitimate reason why Mr. Comey cannot provide sworn live public testimony about the matters under investigation. You took to Twitter last night on that. Here's what you said: the truth is best served with transparency. What is Director Comey trying to hide from the American people with this baseless motion to quash? So you got this battle with James Comey. What happens with Rod Rosenstein? Will you get a satisfactory answer from him over the next month about the reports that he was willing to wear a wire, and find out whether that was true or not?
I think it's very important that Mr. Rosenstein answer questions with regard to that. I know he's put out a statement denying it, and we have a New York Times report with regard to it, but I think the public deserves to have more information about that. And there are a few other things that Mr. Rosenstein could testify about.
Well, you got a lot moving on both fronts, though. How much can you get done, sir?
We're close to the end. These are the last witnesses that we need to do. We've examined, hundreds of thousands of pages of documents, searched through them, and have thousands of documents that are relevant to our investigation and all of these witnesses. We're ready to turn that over to the Senate, and we're anxious to see what additional work the Inspector General does. Mr. Gowdy and I have, of course, also called for the appointment of a second special counsel, especially when you have Glenn Simpson at Fusion GPS coming in and taking the Fifth Amendment, and others who are reluctant to testify.
Yeah, you sound confident that you'll get your answers. We'll see if that's the case. Sir, thank you for coming back here. Bob Goodlatte from Virginia. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bill.
Facebook facing backlash after Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg reportedly calls for an investigation into billionaire George Soros for criticizing the company. How Facebook is responding to that this morning. And a deputy U.S. Marshal killed while trying to serve an arrest warrant. What we now know about the suspect and how this all unfolded. Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg reportedly asked staffers to research George Soros' financial interests. According to the New York Times, the request came just days after the billionaire attacked Facebook during a speech at the World Economic Forum. Jackie Heinrich's live in New York City with more on this. Jackie?
Sandra, according to the New York Times, Facebook confirmed that Sheryl Sandberg asked her communications team to determine if George Soros would profit from attacks against the social media giant. But just 2 weeks ago, Sandberg denied knowledge about a separate effort to push negative stories about Soros. It's all causing questions about just how much Facebook's second in command was involved in a campaign against the liberal billionaire. The request from Sandberg came after Soros blasted tech companies in a speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, saying the companies could threaten democracy and impact human behavior. The speech coming at a time when Facebook was under the microscope for disseminating Russian propaganda. But the earlier denial was related to a separate push to circulate negative negative stories about Soros that put Facebook in hot water after the firm they hired was linked to anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. According to The Times, Facebook commissioned a campaign-style opposition research effort by Definers Public Affairs aimed to discredit critics of the company. They later fired Definers after a Times investigation. Sandra?
Jackie, Definers was hired to dole out public information to reporters about Soros's funding. This is all something that we continue to learn more on this story. A lot of interest in this story, so we're going to continue to follow all this. Jackie, did you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, this is all after a Times investigation revealed that Definers hired to dole out information about reporters to about Soros's funding of American advocacy groups. That drew scrutiny because they were linked to anti-Semitic groups. Definers was. Sandberg denied that she had much knowledge about the specifics, later announcing an internal audit into how Facebook's policies affected minority users and also employees. Now, we did reach out to Facebook for comment this morning. So far, we have not gotten a response, but we are awaiting comment this morning from both sides.
All
Sandra?
Right, we will await that. Jackie Heinrich, thank you very much.
Meantime, some migrants to the U.S.-Mexico border are launching a hunger strike in protest against the U.S. government. This as Tijuana faces increasing strain from the growing number of migrants. We are live from the border city. Let you know what's happening there today, Sandra.
Meanwhile, the battle to keep the government open, it is heating up as the president stands firmly on funding for that border wall, saying the fight over that could trigger a partial government shutdown. Will it? Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton will join us next.
That there is a flippant comment about shutting down the border. It impacts the economy and the lives of hundreds of thousands, not millions of people that are reliant on that trade and commerce.
Between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. Whether that happens, is that a pull aside? Is that a 2-minute conversation? What is that? Is that more than just a handshake? We'll see. But there will be a lot of news out of this regarding Russia, regarding China, and already the news about the new deal that was signed between Canada and Mexico, rewriting the rules on NAFTA. It takes us back 25 years, so a lot of news expected from Argentina.
A lot of meetings for the G20 over the course of a year, but this is obviously the big one in which the agenda culminates at the Leaders Summit. As we await the president, this could be happening in the next half an hour or so. Trade is going to be a big topic in the meeting with President Xi. NAFTA to be signed obviously already did, and the biggest by far is going to be whether or not that meeting happens with Vladimir Putin. So we await all of that.
We do. In the meantime, to the border we go. Some of the migrants stage a hunger strike at the U.S.-Mexico border, saying they've got a right to enter the U.S. to seek asylum. Meanwhile, that city, Tijuana, is buckling under the human strain that is put on it. Griff Jenkins back on the border in that city, Tijuana, Mexico. Griff, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. The rain here in the last 24 hours has made dire conditions even worse. Take a look behind me. You can just see all of the clothes, all of the tents, all of their belongings just absolutely drenched. It's in the low 50s here. You can see here the trash that's begun to accumulate belongings, as well as medicine, some drops here, some sort of pills. Remember, we reported yesterday on the health risks here with 60% suffering from respiratory. But look inside here. Look at the very extremely difficult conditions that these migrants, the 6,000 or so, are living under right now. And that is why Juan Manuel Gastelum, the mayor of Tijuana, says that when it comes to blame, he places it exactly on the organizers for bringing them here. Listen.
Those are really criminals because they're dealing with lives. They're dealing with people. It's a federal crime. They ask me, do you know who they are? No, I don't know, but just look at the films. Look at them and you'll find who are they.
Now, when you consider what happened on Sunday when these migrants charged that border, it cost them 129 million pesos. That's $6 million of trade. And when you look at what's happening here, trying to keep this very unsanitary camp going, I asked the mayor, who's footing the bill here? Here's what he said.
Tijuana is footing the bill. It cost how much?
Approximately $25,000 a day, every day. And our economy is not that great. Right. It's not enough. The Mexico federal government has to take over.
And that's why he hopes that the incoming president, López Obrador, who will be inaugurated tomorrow, will help. Finally, you mentioned that hunger strike. It started in the rain yesterday. It was going to be a march. They shut it down quickly. We'll find out what happened today, but it's no time for a hunger strike in the conditions they're already under. Bill?
Thank you, Griff. Griff Jenkins from the border there. More now with Sandra.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton joins us now with more on this. Ken, you just heard the words there of the mayor saying Mexico has to take over. What does happen next?
Well, obviously, I think Mexico made a huge mistake letting these people cross their southern border. They're going to have to deal with that in the future. And now I agree with the mayor of Tijuana. He's got a problem. He's got to expend all these resources that he doesn't have, and there's no time limit on it. So these people are stuck in a really bad situation, and so is the mayor of Tijuana and the people of Tijuana.
What's finally going to give? I mean, the hunger strike, Tijuana is obviously completely strained at this point. I mean, something's got to give, and we're watching this situation just get worse.
I think it's with Mexico. I think he's right. I think the Mexican government needs to step in, and they're the ones that let these people cross the border. Now they're responsible for taking care of them. So I really believe it's up to the Mexican government to step up and take care of these people.
Meanwhile, there is the battle over funding the border wall. That is certainly heating up. And there's a big question whether or not Democrats are going to work with Republicans and the president on this issue. Where do you see that going?
Well, certainly I'm hopeful that they'll work with them. I've been hoping that ever since the election, that finally, after this election, we could come together and start negotiating some kind of compromise that the Democrats can be happy with and the Republicans be happy with. Obviously, this is an important issue to the border states and to the entire country.
Democrats, would they rather shut down the government than get something done on this issue? That's the big question as we move forward and watch this play out.
I certainly hope that's not true. They have an opportunity here. There's an opportunity, as we have a Democratic Congress coming into being, they have an opportunity to step up and work with the president and get something done on this. Otherwise, we all suffer. There's really no point in not trying to negotiate some type of compromise.
And we continue to see these images coming out of there. These ones that are showing on the screen right now, Tijuana, where we just heard Griff Jenkins reporting. The resources there continue to run low. I mean, you've got thousands of migrants crowding that city there. What do you think the American people, I mean, their views certainly have been changing on this. And these images, they certainly play out in how you see this whole situation unfolding. What do you think the tolerance of the American people is for this?
Well, look, it's a complicated issue. I feel for these people. I think the mayor of Tijuana hit it on the head when he blamed the organizers for basically using these people as pawns, and so now they're stuck in the middle. And it's a complicated issue. If we allow them in, then it creates an incentive for that to happen over and over again. That's just not the process that our country has set up. And so, I do feel sorry for these people, and I feel sorry for them because of the organizers, and I feel bad that Mexico allow this to happen.
What do you make of the White House response to the current situation?
The responsibility of the president is to protect the border, to secure the border, to make sure that we're not allowing criminals in, that we have legal immigration. I am completely for legal immigration. We need workers in Texas, but it needs to be done the right way, and we have no idea who these people are. The president's claiming that some of them are criminals. We know that we get criminals crossing our border all the time, because we keep track of those statistics. So, it's a serious issue that has to be resolved.
Well, he's got a lot on his plate right now, obviously down in Argentina for the G20 summit. But this is an issue that will be front and center, especially over the funding of the border wall and a potential government shutdown. So we'll see how it all plays out. Ken Paxton, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me on. Have a great day.
All right, we're going to have more on this funding fight. Our headliner, House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, has some strong viewpoints on all of this. He will be joining us next hour.
Looking forward to that. In the meantime, here we go from the U.S. Supreme Court. This is the first look at the official class picture that features Brett Kavanaugh. Some images that were recorded a bit earlier today. There is the latest U.S. Supreme Court justice in a close-up shot there. So there you have it, all 9. They look happy, right, Sandra?
Yeah, and after the recent health scare, I guess you could call it, with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, there she is, and what a moment that is.
Yes, it is, Elena Kagan and more. So there you have it, just coming in from the High Court in Washington, D.C., Sonia Sotomayor. Want me to go through all of it? Or you want me to do the whole roster, or should we stop now, huh? I think we can stop.
It's certainly a moment to take in after everything that's happened over recent
Nice stuff there. Okay, from the U.S. Supreme Court. There's this from last night. You got this, Smitty, right?
All right, Thursday night football on Fox. The New Orleans Saints, one of the best teams in the NFL. But last night, they suffered a big loss to the Dallas Cowboys. Final score, 13.
All
right.
Yeah. I was expecting them. Yeah, come on. All
right. The winning streak comes to an end.
President Trump doing some high-stakes wheeling and dealing now, meeting with the Chinese president after a trade battle between the two countries. This is not settled yet. Is there a deal to be made? Congressman Sean Duffy reacts on that coming up next. Plus this.
Amazing new video from California. A sheriff's deputy records his own close call with the deadliest wildfire in state history. A big morning in Buenos Aires as we await the president's arrival at the G20 summit there. World leaders are making their arrival on the red carpet. As you can see, the cars continue to arrive there, and we await the family picture, that moment where you see those world leaders come together along with the U.S. president for a photo opportunity. And we will be watching, the world will be watching to see if that meeting with Vladimir Putin happens ahead of the president's meeting with President Xi later today as well.
Just seen about 15 minutes to get the family photo. We'll bring that to you live. We'll see President Trump in the room with the Argentinian president and others. And then you will get a working lunch a bit later today and a meeting with the Japanese leader later today. This Putin meeting was supposed to happen tomorrow. We'll see whether or not that takes place. But Saturday night, big doings with the leader of China as well. So President Trump will meet with the Chinese President Xi. After canceling that meeting with Vladimir Putin, tweeting this, based on the fact that the ships and sailors have not been returned to Ukraine from Russia, I've decided it would be best for all parties concerned to cancel my previously scheduled meeting in Argentina with President Vladimir Putin. I look forward to a meaningful summit again as soon as the situation is resolved. At the moment, it's not. Wisconsin Congressman Sean Duffy, House Financial Services Committee, among other things. And, sir, good morning to you. Welcome back. Decent start, G20. Got a new deal with Canada and Mexico. Still work to do in that trade deal, but nonetheless, we watched the signing earlier today. Is it a good idea to meet with Putin, or should you blow that off this time?
I don't think we should meet with Putin. I think there has to be consequences for bad acts and what they've done with the Ukraine. I think the president's right to step away from that meeting, at least for now.
Okay. What about President Xi of China? Do you believe there is a deal to be made in Argentina, or are we weeks or even months away from that, sir?
So first of all, it's important that both leaders sit down and talk, and a deal is possible. But I think what's important to note is everyone's saying this is high stakes, Bill. But this is just a meeting of opportunity. If they can cut a deal, great. If they can't, President Trump is going to walk away and wait until he gets a good deal, not just any deal. And I think that's important to note. And what we're doing here is saying, listen, China, they lie, they cheat, they steal. And if we don't have a better relationship with China on the trade front, our future is in jeopardy. They're going to be the economic and military power of the world if we don't stop the theft and the forced transfer of technology and the cyber warfare they impose against us. So I think what the president is doing is, again, not looking to the next election so much as looking to the American future for the next generation to get a better deal with China.
I get the bigger picture. What are you hearing from farmers in Wisconsin? Because some of these farmers in your state and others, they're taking a toll here.
Yeah. So when people said we couldn't renegotiate NAFTA, our dairy farmers are happy because we want to sell milk to Canada and we sell milk into Mexico, and this relationship is going to be better for dairy. Now, on the other hand, in my district, we produce the most cranberries in America in my district, and we now have tariffs from China on our cranberries, so that's tough. We have the world's premier ginseng in Marathon County, Wisconsin, and China buys a lot of ginseng. They put tariffs on our great ginseng, too. So for ginseng and cranberries, this is tough stuff with Asia. But with dairy, they're happy or happier with the deal that the president cut on NAFTA.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that about Wisconsin.
Good stuff, Bill.
Good to know. I just want to take you back to the deal that's been struck with Canada and Mexico. I don't know if you like it or not, but there seems, if you listen to Justin Trudeau, more work to do. I want to call for soundbite number one from President Trump from earlier today. This is what we woke up to, Congressman. Listen here.
Under the USMCA, at least 75% of our automobiles' content must be manufactured in North America. This will help stop auto jobs from going overseas, and it will bring back auto jobs that have already left. Many, many jobs are already planning to come back. Many companies are coming back, and we're very excited about that.
So at that same press conference, Justin Trudeau said this in turn.
As I discussed with President Trump a few days ago, recent plant closures by General Motors, which affects thousands of Canadian and American workers and their families, are a heavy blow. We will stand up for our workers and fight for their families and their communities. And Donald, it's all the more reason why we need to keep working to remove the tariffs on steel and aluminum between our countries.
They were on first-name basis today. What do you think about the movement on that, a point he's making?
Yeah, listen, each side is fighting for their own workers, Bill, right? I mean, President Trump is fighting for American workers, and, Trudeau is fighting for Canadian workers. But let's be clear, we have a great manufacturing bloc in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. We want to make sure we do have free trade. But I think what the president has done is cut a better deal for the American worker, making sure it's fairer between the three countries. And so obviously the Canadians are upset about that. They were taking a lot of our jobs, a lot of our manufacturing facilities, and they wanted to keep them. And we have a little better deal now, and so they're not pleased with that, and they want to probably renegotiate it in the future. But, again, this is not perfect, but it is better for us. And by the way, for us on dairy, they have a supply management, a government-run dairy system in Canada. We now sell a little bit more of our great Wisconsin milk into Canada, which makes our farmers happy.
It's
By the way,
it's very interesting stuff. You get a deal with Mexico and Canada here. Maybe you do a deal with the EU partners, and now you're really starting to put a squeeze around China. Let's see whether or not that strategy ultimately works. Thank you, sir. Sean Duffy, the Republican from Wisconsin. Thank you. Sandra, what's next?
President Trump attending the G20 summit in Argentina this morning, minutes from now. He will be participating in that official welcome ceremony, as well as the G20 family photo. We'll keep our eye on this for you, and we will bring that to you when it happens. News alert, a high-speed chase near the U.S.-Mexico border turns fatal. A pickup truck speeding away from an enforcement stop in San Diego County. 3 people died in the crash. William Lajeunesse live in Los Angeles with more on this. William?
Well, Sandra, it happened yesterday around 5 p.m., as you said, east of San Diego. Now, the Border Patrol get into this high-speed chase with a Chevy pickup. The truck was weaving in and out of traffic at about 100 miles an hour. 2 people in the cab, a male driver and the female passenger, and 9 immigrants in back. Border Patrol had to lay a spike strip. The truck hits the strip, goes over a dirt embankment, ejecting everyone in back. 3 dead, 8 injured.
We believe they're all adults at this time, all males, except there was 1 female in the vehicle, and one of the female did succumb to her injuries here on scene.
So this happened between San Diego and the Arizona border, where there's no fence because of the mountains, and the Border Patrol puts in these checkpoints that you see on the map on the interstate to stop the smugglers from getting north. And this crash happened near one of those checkpoints. This is the second fatal in the last 16 months in the area. Also yesterday, I want to show you some video from Yuma. 100 immigrants there arrested as members of the caravan, and others are moving to the east because Tijuana is so crowded. They build up in California. Agents say they were mostly Central American families. This single group here turning themselves into the Border Patrol, again, asking for asylum. Sandra, in this particular area, it's very difficult to always catch people at the border, unlike Yuma. So these smugglers their cargo's worth a lot of money. Once they hit the interstate, they're going to L.A., New York, and Chicago. So that's why the Border Patrol puts in those checkpoints to try to stop people, because they stay in these stash houses. So it's a very complicated business, but obviously very deadly as well. Back to you.
William Lajeunesse, thank you.
Another alert now. World leaders meeting in Argentina, moving in the place as we speak, as we await the official start of the G20 welcoming ceremony. President Trump will be in that room in a moment. We will continue our coverage as the summit gets underway, as America's Newsroom rolls on. So come on back, top of the hour. We will have that for you.